G'day everyone, and welcome to Dingo Ate My Movie. Before we jump into today's episode, I want to give you a quick heads up. Today we're discussing the adventures of Barry McKenzie and Barry McKenzie Holds His Own. Films that are very much a product of their time, with humour and themes that might be considered offensive by today's standards. These movies include crude language, stereotypes, and humour that some might find inappropriate. And then, of course, our discussion may reflect this content. So listener discretion is definitely advised, especially for those who might find such material upsetting. Now let's get cracking into the heart of Australian cinema and explore the legacy of Barry McKenzie.
You're listening to a Monster Kid podcast.
Hi, and welcome to A Dingo Ate My Movie, a podcast that features classic Ozploitation and other weird, wonderful, overlooked and underappreciated Australian films from the 70s, 80s and beyond. My name is Pete, and I'm your host.
The Night Rider. That is his name. The Night Rider. Remember him when you look at the night sky.
Welcome to A Dingo Ate My Movie, a podcast about the weird and wonderful Australian films from the 70s, 80s and beyond. I'm your host, Pete, and today Matt Fulton joins me again to somehow discuss The Adventures of Barry McKenzie from 1972 and its 1974 sequel, Barry McKenzie Holds His Own. G'day, Matt. Thanks very much for joining me again.
Pete, it's an absolute pleasure that you've invited me back. And you've given me, I thought this would be easy to do, but after watching these, and I hadn't seen them for a long time, I'm going, how can I say stuff without being taken out of context? So it's got to
I've
be
already
a big
recorded
challenge.
a disclaimer, don't worry.
No, thank you for inviting me back on. These movies hold a real nice soft spot for me. So.
Oh, that's good. I always get you for the strange ones. Last time it was Alvin.
Yeah.
So.
Which that was a mental challenge for the second one at least.
Yeah. There's we'll talk about it later, but there's a little bit kind of in common with these movies actually. So
yeah.
We'll
Nice. Looking
go
forward to
through it later. I'm sure you'll see it as soon as I bring it up. So that's great. All right. So the first movie we're going to talk about today is The Adventures of Barry McKenzie. And quick synopsis for you on the movie. Barry McKenzie and his aunt Edna Everidge navigate the eccentricities of British society, experiencing a series of comical misadventures and cultural clashes during their lively journey through London. Cast includes Barry Crocker, Barry Humphries, Dick Bentley, Peter Cook, Avis Landon, Spike Milligan, Dennis Price, and Paul Bertram. It was directed by Bruce Beresford and written by Barry Humphries and Bruce Beresford. The thing that gets me is it's just like how dated it is now, for one.
It is, yeah. And I don't know where to start with this.
I know. I'm the same. How do you talk about these movies? I mean, these movies are very much of their time, and there is no way you could make these movies today. Well, you could, but you would probably be like tarred and feathered, I think.
And there's no way that they would be able to be broadcast on, say, free to air or anything like that. Streaming, yes, because that's no holds barred. But just the warning note right at the beginning of Barry McKenzie, it just sums up. I'm not going to repeat it, but it sums up what you're about to be in for. But the whole thing is just complete. You know, when the phrase, the tongue in cheek, well, that tongue has pierced that cheek and gone right out.
Yeah, when you see the censorship, what is it? The
Ratings,
the Commonwealth of Australia censorship classification of NPA. Yeah, it pretty much tells you what to expect. You can read into NPA however you like. If you watch the movie, you'll definitely see it and you'll definitely be offended by it.
Yes.
Barry McKenzie is based on a fictional character created by Barry Humphries in 1964 for a comic strip in the satirical British magazine called Private Eye, and he was drawn by New Zealand artist Nicholas Garland. Private Eye is a British magazine that was founded in 1961 and then purchased in 1962 by English comedian Peter Cook. So I think that's a bit of the link there between Peter Cook and this movie as well. The film was entirely funded by the Australian Film Development Corporation for $250,000, and it recouped the budget in just 3 months.
Wow.
In fact, it was actually the first Australian film to crack $1 million at the box office, and it was also the first commercial R-rated Australian film. Interesting there. It made its money back very quickly.
Yeah, and that's going by 1970s standards too.
Correct. I think if you were to work it out today, I think you'd be looking at around $9 million, which isn't a fortune, but for a little comedy film, it's not bad.
And the fact that anything now, they need borderline instant returns, so you'll have to try and earn it back within 2 weeks.
Yeah, they want it. It's like everything these days. It has to be done. You want the money back straight away.
Wanted it yesterday.
Bruce Beresford has said both this film and Barry McKenzie Holds His Own were detrimental to his career. He stated that it was like a massive mistake to make this movie because the films were so poorly received. Of course, Bruce Beresford would go on to direct Don's Party in 1976 and then Breaker Morant in 1980. He's also known for Money Movers, Tender Mercy, Crimes of the Heart, and probably most famously Driving Miss Daisy. So it's amazing he went from Barry McKenzie to Driving Miss Daisy. He could have had like Jessica Tandy as like Barry's mum instead of Edna Everage.
Well, there was a part, I don't know you've got the Blu-ray edition, don't you?
Yeah, I watched it on Blu-ray, yeah.
Did you watch it with the intro from Dame Edna?
Dame Edna, yeah, I've seen the...
Yeah, because that's where she does highlight the fact that she was in Driving Miss Daisy.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
But she was going to be, and then she passed it on to someone who was a lot younger and up-and-coming talent, Jessica Tandy.
And we can't, speaking of Dame Edna, we can't really talk about this film without talking about Barry Humphries and the rising star of Edna Everage. Humphries actually began performing Everage, as I read, I think I looked this up the other day, and it was in like the mid to late 50s he started, he kind of created that character.
Yeah, Auntie Edna. And back in, I think it's somewhere, I've got it on DVD somewhere, or in one of those archives that Channel 9 released or something like that, where Auntie Edna appeared as the suburban housewife with the standard dark hairstyle, nothing curly or fluffy like how it ended up being, but it was just straightforward, brushed down, suburban housewife style, and just did a piece to the camera.
Quite amazing how it sort of all turned out. I'm not sure though whether do you think this is the first time she was on screen, or would she have been on screen sometime before this movie?
Oh, definitely before
on screen, because I know he was doing like shows and things
on the silver screen. No, this is probably the first time. My apologies. I thought you were referring to TV.
Yeah, she was probably on TV, right?
Yeah, especially during the Graham Kennedy era.
Oh, that's right. Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Humphries also played Hoot in this movie, the little hippie guy, and the psychiatrist. Was he Dr. Lamprey? I think his name is the guy that gets vomited on in both movies.
Yeah. So he played many hats in the film.
he's a big loss, Barry Humphries. Like, some of his characters are just fantastic. I've always had a soft spot for a lot of the characters he does, and I'm just trying to think of my favorite now. I don't know. Edna's always really good.
Well, it's funny that when he started to, when he appeared, other than the regular specials, which I grew up on, that would be shown on ABC or whatever commercial network throughout the 80s and 90s. Originally, I didn't like Dame Edna, but I grew up appreciating it a bit later on because I just didn't understand the humor. Appealing to a newer generation would have been when Barry Humphries voiced Bruce the Shark in Finding Nemo. And so when you have your kids being fans of Bruce, and then it's like, oh, Barry Humphries, you should, like when they do a deep dive, I guess at today's day and age, when they're now a lot older and they go, oh, Barry Humphries, who's he? And then, then they discover, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Times have changed.
I've always had a real soft spot for Les Patterson as well.
Oh, yes.
It's,
yeah, the head of the chair on the cheese and wine board?
yeah.
Yeah.
There's actually a movie we could do of his as well. Les Patterson Saves the World.
All right, well, our bag's a spot for that. There you go.
Yeah, so
I've got it as well.
Yeah, definitely a big loss to Australia. The other thing I got about this movie, just moving on to the movie itself, to me, this movie is kind of ostensibly like a series of skits. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I think it's probably really reminiscent of its origins in a comic strip.
Yeah.
So we've got, the way I saw it, we've got like leaving Australia and the trip, being ripped off by the Poms everywhere as soon as he arrives, and then the bit about the cigarette ad and the little gallivanting he does with his little co-star in the ad, the Gorts and the daughter, the hippies and the gig, the psychiatrist, there's like all these bits that are, yes, they're scenes in the movie, but they're kind of almost like, to me, in the movie, they're kind of like extended skits.
Yeah.
They don't really relate much. It's like he goes from, like the Gorts bit, he leaves the house and gets picked up, and then we're into the next skit, which is him with the hippies and stuff like that.
Well, wasn't the whole thing with Barry McKenzie, it created, as you explained, how it was all created and developed, but the storytelling was just in the way of Barry Humphries explaining his point of view of how he sees the culture, the Australian, or the ochre, the Aussie ochre of it all, and how he despises it. And then you also got everything that comes out of the motherland. So it's just his view or views of the cultures behind it, and it's just no filter.
None whatsoever.
Yeah. Filter? What's filter?
Well, I get the feeling from some of the stuff I watched on with Barry McKenzie Holds His Own. I had a panic last week because I thought, I'll be able to watch this on Broly or something like that. It's nowhere. It's nowhere on streaming, right?
Yeah.
So, right, you've got it.
I got it on DVD, yep.
I had to order from eBay, and I was so lucky it came in time.
Oh.
A 3-pack, and it had The Adventures of Barry McKenzie Holds His Own, and some Dame Edna thing. I can't remember what it was. It was an umbrella release from years ago. And I was so much panicking. I was thinking, oh, shit, am I going to have to message Matt and say, oh, we're just going to have to do Barry McKenzie?
I could have sent you. The funny thing is, I've got the original, I've got the DVD release when it first came out.
Yeah.
And I still remember the day where it was being promoted on Rove Live, and Peter Hellier was trying to sell this movie on Rove. And then he's like, oh, this is amazing, showing clips of it. And for a lot of people, it would have gone directly over their head. But I went, oh, that's interesting. I'll get it. Well, I've got that copy then, which I still have. So was it 2003? So I still have it. And then I was collecting those Ozploitation Classics bundles that Umbrella had released around the time of Not Quite Hollywood. And so there's a copy of Barry McKenzie Holds His Own in one of those compilations. So I've actually got 2 copies.
You've got it twice.
But yeah, of both Adventures of Barry McKenzie, because I've also got the original DVD and Blu-ray, and also Holds His Own. So it's like, you just call me next time.
I needed it for my collection anyway. Yeah, so
I could have driven down the road and dropped it off to you.
And it had a nice extra on the DVD. I don't know if it's on the Blu-ray. I haven't checked it out. On the DVD of Adventures of Barry McKenzie, you probably got it there. There's actually a PDF script.
Yes, just noticed that.
I had to look at it. I was looking at it yesterday, and there's like a whole scene at the beginning of the movie that's not there.
Oh.
Where the film opens with Barry McKenzie having a surf at Bondi Beach. And what's his mate's name? Is it? Curly. Yeah. Coming down to get him from the beach because his father's passed away. And that's where the whole thing starts. And then they cut to the lawyer's office. But there's these whole scenes about them going back to the house and his father lying there, and his father had died with not a beer or something. He had some alcohol in his hand or something like that. And
well, they might have filmed it, but they probably cut it for time, or it just didn't have a flow, because it starts off somber, and then it goes directly into it. So the fact that at the beginning of Barry McKenzie, that everything is, you could definitely tell it was filmed in Sydney, I'll put it that way, because of the harbour backdrop in nearly every frame.
Well, that's very much of the times, right? Every time there was a movie filmed in Sydney in the 70s or the 80s, you always saw the Harbour Bridge, the Opera House. Like, I think when you listen to Brian Trenchard Smith talking about the movies he made, he was always like, oh, well, my movies were almost like a promotional film for Australia. I always tried to make sure I had the Opera House or the Harbour Bridge. And look at The Man from Hong Kong, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Where Jimmy Wang Yu, like, well, probably not him, it's probably Grant Page, sort of kites through the harbour and stuff.
Yeah, it's just trying to sell it, and I guess if they do that, they go, maybe if Tourism Australia, hey, you've done some heavy lifting, here's some money.
Yeah,
get them to piggyback off onto the promotions to make it a bit easier.
Yeah, but going back to the movie, I think it's pretty obvious that Barry Humphries wrote this as like a massive satire. And like you were getting at, I think I read a couple of places where he was kind of like, this is really all about the overblown cliche of the Aussie bloke sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it is. It's an overblown cliche. Although there's really interesting, one of the other, I think it's the Holds His Own disc that I was looking at, has like a 50-minute documentary that was made in like 70-something, and it's all in black and white. He interviews people, that were at the premiere and all this. And he interviews this other guy, and the guy is like such a cliche of Barry McKenzie. And he's talking about how much he loves Barry McKenzie. He'd love to be Barry McKenzie, and he's got his chick there with him, and they zoom in on his face because he's got like he's dribbling a little bit when he's talking, and you can see the cameraman's gone, oh beauty, I'm going to zoom in on this guy dribbling while he goes on about everything.
Well, see, here's the thing with the DVD releases, if you can track them down, they're just chock full of, if you want a good Australian film that's got a lot of extras, these ones are the way to go.
Yeah, they have.
So that you're getting your value for money, even though whatever you feel about the film, it's just bonds of features, so to speak. It's a gold mine of Humphries.
Yeah, it's quite amazing. Before I watched these again for this show, I hadn't seen The Adventures of Barry McKenzie for God knows years, right? I've had the Blu-ray because it was the first Blu-ray that Umbrella released with the slip casing, the Ozploitation Classics one. I think it was the first disc that they released. I've had it for so long I'd never watched it. And I pulled it out to watch it, and I was like, oh, wow, I didn't realize. And when I was watching some of the extras on that Blu-ray, and there's millions of them, and there's one in particular, there's like a documentary on that that I kept thinking, oh, this is going to finish soon. This is going to finish soon. It must have gone for nearly 2 hours. It was amazing. I started watching it. I finished watching the movie. I think it was Wednesday night at like 9 o'clock. I thought, oh, I'll watch this documentary. It's probably only half an hour long or something. It's like hour and a half or something like that. And I never realized how deeply Barry Humphries was ingrained with it. I never knew, right, for instance, that he actually wrote or co-wrote the script with Bruce Beresford, and how much input he had in this film. I thought he was just really there for Dame Edna and a few other characters, right?
Yeah, and I don't know, is he shying away still from it that he had done Barry McKenzie?
Who, Bruce Beresford?
Yeah.
I don't know. He's still alive, right?
I think so.
I looked him up on Wikipedia. He's still alive as far as I can see, but I don't know. All I can think of is he probably, like he's said, that it kind of ruined him for a couple of years.
Yeah, but now it's a major cult classic.
Yeah, I don't think you would hide that you did a movie like that. He might have done so, in some years, but I think as you get older, you learn to realize that it's movies like that that probably make you as a director, right?
Yeah, and you cut your teeth. And the fact that, and he's still kicking on, 83 years old at the time of this recording. I'm just amazed that you can see how low budget Barry McKenzie, the first one, is, even though they did a pretty good job at filming in the UK, with some parts. And Holds His Own is just, it's backed by Reg Grundy, who is, his name is slang itself, or the
undies.
Colloquialism. So, Barry got backed by undies. So, and you can just see how much they've invested in it, but it just feels like that they really stretched the idea. However, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Completely wrong, but a lot of fun. Like the ocarisms are just to the extreme.
Oh, yeah. It's like, I think I actually noted down some yesterday. Where are they? This was basically through movies. It was like things like, the usual one where you're talking about the one that they always quote about him going to the bathroom, splashing the boots and pointing Percy at the porcelain and calling someone a ratbag with that great song, bangs like a dunny door, fair go, blimey, don't come the raw prawn, pommy bastards, stone the crows, chinwag, drongo, whoop whoop, shoot through, dry as a dead dingo's donga, which I still use today.
Yeah, I hear that a fair bit.
Yep. Chunder, technically yawn, like a rat up a drain. I love that one. And then the old more nookie than you've had hot dinners.
Yeah.
And the bums rush. I remember going back to school, and I'm sure at some stage, some teacher we had, you always had that like one teacher that taught something like, I don't know, some sort of art thing or one of the more not, mainstream subjects that was always like edgy and was kind of like one of the guys, and everyone kind of liked him because he was like that. And I remember him at one stage, I can't remember his name, saying something like, I've had more nookie than you guys have had hot dinners.
It's just those little mannerisms where you go, oh, when you watch these movies, you just go, oh, that's where they got it from. Or
some of them are very dated. Like I don't really hear Stone the Crows anymore.
Yeah, and the only ones that the current day and the most cleanest ones are, referring to Al Stewart Flamin. It goes from there.
Now, this podcast is rated as explicit, so I'll have this conversation and say the words. I was saying to May I was talking to her last night, my wife May, about the movie because she hadn't had the chance to watch them with me because she was working all sorts of weird shifts this week. And I said, do you know what's really interesting about these movies? They have some of the most politically incorrect terms. They have some of the worst things you've seen and you will see in a movie. But I don't recall ever hearing the word fuck, or I don't recall ever hearing the word cunt in either of these movies.
That's a good point.
There's no bad language in the movies. There's bloody, but bloody's not even a rude word.
Well, the only thing that I can think of is they get as close as maybe saying shit because of saying shit creek. Yeah. Because the amount of times that he goes, I'm up shit creek, and Yeah, like I think it was what's the one that he's paddling out on a boat, and was that Holds His Own?
I think it's Holds His Own.
But he's out in the Thames, I think. And
Yeah, I think it's Holds His Own, is it?
Yeah, and then he gets in the boat, and then he goes, "Oh, I'm out definitely up shit creek without a paddle," and he's using his hands to get out into the water.
So I mean, that's the one when they're crossing the English Channel, right? Is that the one?
I think so.
In Holds His Own, is that Holds His Own? It is.
Because, this is the interesting thing.
He's wearing blackface.
Yes, that's the one where I just got, oh goodness gracious, but
it's unbelievable. Like the only things there was no Americans in this movie, so the only thing I didn't hear was Seppos, right? But I heard all the other ones, Pommy bastard every second word.
Yeah.
I think if you're British, you're going to be quite offended by this film.
That's right. Yeah, he does turn up in blackface. This is Barry McKenzie.
Yeah.
As Abdul McKenzie.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's trying to be smuggled because Barry's been banned from returning to the UK after the fast from last time, and so this is where they were trying to. This is with Barry McKenzie Holds His Own, by the way, and is going to go to. Where were they heading off?
They were in France and they were heading back to England.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And he's just being smuggled out, and that's where and this is probably where you're going to have to might censor it, but I'm only quoting the movie, and this is how afraid I am of it. But Barry escapes, and then the guy goes, "Oh, I know, basically boat smugglers saying, wogs are tinted people." So it's like. Layer upon layer of offense, and then they're on the back of the truck or whatever, and with some Indian people.
Yeah,
and then the one joke which I freaking love is when the lady is reading a book. She's reading a book about Immanuel Kant, right? So the philosopher, and so.
Oh, I love this scene.
Yeah, but it all comes down to the accent and the delivery of it, saying, because Barry's like, what are you doing? And she's going, oh, I'm studying Kant. And he says, same here, but I keep failing the practical. So it was a quick one.
So that's as close as they get to like a bad word, right?
Yeah, exactly.
In two movies. It's not bad. Yeah. But they say so many other bad words that like, and not considered like curse words.
No, exactly. And Immanuel Kant, his surname spelled K-A-N-T. So, because of the English accent, it's like Kant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my favorite bits is like the section with the family, the Gorts. Is it the Gorts?
The Gorts, yeah.
And their daughter, and then the hippie section in the middle. That's quite funny, right? Like the whole them thinking that Edna Everage or Barry McKenzie is rich, and they think that they're rich, and there's like this big misunderstanding, and they're trying to marry off their daughter, who
Sarah,
who is kind of quite weird and not very attractive, and
not very attractive, but she's a well-known English actor.
She was in Upstairs, Downstairs or something, was she?
I think so, yeah. I was looking her up. I can't remember her name. My apologies. But, yeah, well accomplished.
Yeah. It was funny because when I was watching one of the documentaries, they were saying that, I think it was the director of photography or something, was saying, well, what do you say to someone that's cast to be ugly, right? He can't say... He said it's very hard to say, you look great. You look great. Are you ready for your shot?
Yeah. But I just love the fact that during the Adventures of Barry McKenzie, and they try to hook up Barry and Sarah, and they go to the social, and while Barry's being haunted by an English upstart, so saying all the mannerisms and everything, and saying, oh, there's a whole bunch of Australians out the back. And so when he goes out for the nice frosty ales, golden ales, and then there's his mates and John Clark as well.
Oh, yeah. John Clark's in both these films, right?
Yeah. Or
Is he
no,
in both?
he's not in the second
He's
one.
not
No.
in the second one.
The person who plays one of Barry's mates who's in the film twice, is Clive James.
Clive James, that's right.
Yeah, he
In
plays
the first movie, he was basically just a man passed out at a party.
Yeah, but in the second one, he plays a bigger role. Doesn't speak much, but every time you see a frosty golden nail froth up in the screen or can opening, it's him.
Yeah. He said about the first film that he was basically just there to lie down and be passed out, and for some reason it made him classified as like a stunt person, and he got paid more.
The fact is, I wasn't aware that Clive James was part of these movies, and I grew up watching his satirical talk show.
Yeah,
like more just late on in the early 90s on the ABC. So just his dry humor when he's doing those chat shows, and so to see him doing this, being very active, and I'm going, wow, I did not expect that. So yeah, and I've seen these movies before, but I saw him at such a young age.
You don't realize, or they don't have the impact that they have now. Yeah.
No, exactly. Yeah. And just that extra layer of appearances by certain people, and you're going, oh, okay, they're in it.
The actress that played Sarah is Jenny Thomason.
That's it. Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic actress too.
She was really good. I think she was really good. Even I don't think she was particularly ugly. Obviously, they made her up to be that way. They put terrible clothes on her, and
I think it was the character just trying to downplay.
But Barry still had a go.
Yeah, tried to, and then
he tries to.
Yeah, and that's when Mrs. Gort was trying to marry them off.
Yeah,
but Mr. Gort with his fetish.
Dennis Price, right? So apparently this was like one of Dennis Price's last movies, and at this time he was he was deeply alcoholic, effectively.
Wow.
And the scene where he falls asleep next to his wife
was legit.
Wasn't scripted for him to fall asleep.
Oh, because when Mrs. Gort is rambling on and then he falls asleep, that actually suits it. No wonder
it did, but it wasn't scripted to do that. Apparently he just did that.
Wow.
So so I think he died not long after this movie. But his character and even this character is kind of offensive. He's almost like he's one of those, I guess, once again, it's kind of like a satire on the closeted British kind of bisexual or suppressed sexuality sort of thing, where he puts on a school uniform.
Yeah, wants to be punished.
Wants to be punished by Barry, who thinks it's really strange, and anyone would.
And Mrs. Gort's just like, oh, jeez, like she's grown up to live with it.
Yeah.
But when he escapes. Oh, I do got to mention though too beforehand, right at the very beginning, or near the very beginning, where Barry does arrive in the UK, and stays in the hotel. That it's the hotel or the hostel or whatever you want to call it, run by Spike Milligan.
Spike Milligan,
yeah.
He's really good as well.
Yeah.
I learned lots of things about him because I used to listen, I had friends when I was going to school who used to listen to the Goon Show and all that sort of stuff, and used to listen to him a lot then. It was interesting to hear in some of the stuff I watched on the disc about him being kind of very insecure about his performances and things like that, but he was really funny. Like the whole thing with him pulling his sleeve down, so when Barry shook his hand, he's pulling his sleeve back. That was all kind of just ad-libbed by him, sort of thing, and
it's all the subtleties.
Funny guy, hilarious. That's a great scene too, especially when the lights go out and he shows him the box to put money in, and he says, "Just do that every 20 minutes."
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't know if that sort of thing ever really existed.
I don't know, but I've seen something like that happen in the movies a fair bit, but I don't know if that's an actual thing.
Well, it's could have happened.
But the fact that Barry Crocker playing our mate Barry McKenzie, as again, it's known him as a fantastic performer, singer, and everything else like that. And when you get him to do this, he's just the complete opposite.
Yeah.
But just shows that he's got a sense of humor. His character, or his performance as his character, is just so goddamn perfect.
Yeah, he does a great job, and it's so against cast, right?
Yeah.
For him.
Oh,
Because
exactly.
He's totally one of those really nice guys. He's a bit of a smooth singer, and I think he was like, you know, someone that really appealed to the housewives and all this sort of stuff, you know, with his records and things like that. But
it's the audience of, say, IMT/Bert Newton, and then Don Lane show, just that calm, wonderful performer, and knows how to hold a note, and then suddenly he's like, you know, I'm dry as a dead dingo's donger.
I don't know that he did anything else after. Like, he did these two movies. Did he do any other? I don't think he did, right? I think he was mostly, obviously, he's a singer. I'm just having a quick look while we talk about it. But
here we go. Oh, no, he did nothing after Barry McKenzie until 93.
Yeah, that's it.
Shotgun Wedding.
Yeah.
But there was a voice, but he made an appearance as himself in Muriel's Wedding in 1994.
And of course, between 85 and 92, he was the voice singing the theme song to Neighbours.
Yes, exactly. The first time round, the first ever edition.
He was host of a TV series, I think, right? Or a leading performer on The Sound of Music or something like that.
Yeah, but he's popped up in various places as an entertainer of sorts, MC and everything.
But he's very good in this film.
Yeah.
In this film.
Yeah, in this film, yeah. There's the one part which I did get a good giggle out of was when jumping back to when they were at the Gorts, and just out of nowhere, Auntie Edna had the clippers, and it's like, oh, I want to. I hope you don't mind if I could take a little clipping. And then the next scene, she comes back to the window, and it's like this full-on amount. It's like, yeah, interesting.
Yeah,
that's a good visual joke, yeah.
Yeah, and your first thoughts are like, how's she going to get these home? And it's so typical of like a house. Once again, it's the satire, right, on people that would come to your house. And I've seen my mother do it, and I'd see people come to our house, and they'd be like, oh, do you mind? This is beautiful. Do you mind if I have a small cutting of this to take?
Yeah, well, I remember watching, being at my grandparents' place growing up, and then you have the neighbor or an aunt or whatever, they'll be coming over. It's like, oh, they'll take a little sample or a seedling or a clipping, yeah.
The other thing I'll talk about, we can talk about it with both films, but I think what I really like about this movie is I love the scenes with the hippies.
Yes, with your musical performances.
With the musical performances, and, you know, like Julie Covington is in this. She plays Blanche, which is a weird name for a hippie. It's really strange. And their bus, isn't the bus called, or the band name called, the Judas Iscariot Chariot or something like that?
Something like that, yeah. But they're all heading out to perform at the leprosy benefit.
Well, there's this theme of leprosy running right through the movie. Did you notice that?
No.
Like later on, there's a scene where someone's reading a newspaper and it's got like an update on the leprosy epidemic.
Oh, goodness gracious. See, subtlety. I'm going to have to rewatch it again.
It's amazing. You see
so
all
many
this
Easter
stuff.
eggs.
Yeah, there is. But those scenes are great. Like, it looks like the Cavern Club. I don't think it is. Or maybe it is.
I was going to point that out. It looked like the old Beatles, or where they had their first performance. But it looks familiar.
But I'm not sure it is, but it does look like it.
Right?
Yeah. And it's got these two great songs in these scenes, like the One-Eyed Trouser Snake song.
Yep.
Which is fantastic, that I'll probably play right now.
Geez, that was bloody delightful, mate. We've got some pretty grouse songs back in Australia too, you know.
You mean, friend, you could sing us some authentic, viable Aboriginal protest song?
Oh, come off it, sport. No, I mean some of those ditties me and me mates used to sing down at Bondi Beach. Look, give us the guitar. Here's one me mate Curly wrote. Oh, I got a little creature. I suppose you'd call him a pet. And if there's something wrong with him, I don't have to call the vet. He goes everywhere that I go, whether sleeping or awake. God help me if I'd ever lose my little one-night trouser snake. Oh, me one-night trouser snake. Oh, me one-night trouser snake. God help me if I'd ever lose me one-night trouser snake. One day I got to reading in an old Sky Pilot's book about two starkers bastards who made the Lord go crook. They reckon it was a serpent that made Eve the apple take. Tribes, that was no flaming serpent. 'Twas Adam's one-eyed trouser snake. Oh, me one-eyed trouser snake. Oh, me one-eyed trouser snake. God help me if I'd ever lose me one-eyed trouser snake. I met this Artie Sheila, who I'd never met before. And something kind of told me she banged like a dunny door. I said, come up and see me etching. She said, I hope it's not a fake. I said, the only thing that's etching is me one-eyed trouser snake. Oh, me one-eyed trouser snake. Oh, me one-eyed trouser snake. God help me if I ever lose me one-eyed trouser snake. Come all you little Sheilas and listen to me song. The moral of the trouser snake is short as it is long. Beware of imitations. Don't lock your bedroom door. When me pyjama python bites you, you'll be screaming out for more. Oh, my one-eyed trouser snake. Oh, my one-eyed trouser snake. God help me if I ever lose my one-eyed trouser snake. Oh, my one-eyed trouser snake. Oh, my one-eyed trouser snake. God help me if I ever lose my one-eyed trouser snake.
Fantastic, Barry. Wasn't that fantastic?
Listen here, man. We're doing a little gig tonight at the Freedom Arts Factory. It's very heavy.
And this other song called The Old Pacific Sea, which is basically about throwing up from the side of a boat.
Oh, yeah, because it was all about how the word chunder came about.
Yeah.
You know, watch under.
That's right.
You know, watch out under.
Watch out under or watch under. So that's where chunder came from. So they wrote into this script anyway.
And then shortened down to just chunder.
Chunder.
So Aussie.
So Aussie, yeah.
Yeah.
The songs are great. The scenes in the club, whether it's a cabin club or not, I don't know, are quite funny and
Drink it up.
Yeah, it's such a great song.
Yeah.
I'll play it. It'll be on here somewhere. I think I'm going to discuss some people and put these songs in because they're just great ditties. May thought when I played one of them to her, she said, and somebody else said it on Twitter I was talking to, is like, or was it you? It was you, I think. Like, they remind me of Kevin Bloody Wilson.
Yeah, that was me.
You.
Yeah, it was me.
Yeah. And it's very true, right? You could imagine Kevin Bloody Wilson singing these songs.
Oh, 100%. I won't even quote the ones that I can think of that would be suited for the movie, but yeah, they're not right to say out of context.
Yeah.
But I was going to say that when they were at the doing the live performance at the leprosy benefit, that the record exec, the character's name, the Maury Miller, who wants to sign up Barry. Now, when you think about it, I haven't listened to any of the commentary on the movies or anything like that, but one thing that I did know was, I feel like I worked out, was Maury Miller looked very like a certain promoter, and which was Harry M. Miller. And Harry M. Miller, the M in Harry's name stands for Morris. So I'd say that Maury Miller would be a homage because he just looked like Harry, yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
So I thought that's a nice little homage to him.
And once again, that whole storyline in the middle goes nowhere. It's just a bridge to the next sketch.
Oh, yeah. Especially the dream sequence when he passes out. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, which is really strange. It's almost like the dream sequence in Razorback.
Yeah. Oh, there's a movie.
Yeah. It's almost the same. And once again, it's got these Aboriginal people sort of chasing him, and
he's the convict.
And he's a convict, and it's kind of like, where did this come from?
Yeah. I swear I don't remember that scene anywhere.
Yeah, I don't remember it either.
I don't know if it's been inserted into because I watched it on Blu-ray. I really should watch the DVD version of it to see if it's in there.
It's in.
But yeah. I just don't remember that scene.
No, I don't either. Unless it's one of those ones that's just easily forgettable.
Yeah. Forgettable, regrettable.
It's a bit of a strange one. Well, you know, like, yeah, I was trying to work out why it was in there, whether it's in there because he's always saying things that are quite derogatory of Aboriginal people or that sort of thing. I don't know.
It was coming back to haunt him.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's quite weird.
But then after, when he's trying to basically, when he's invited to go on TV as well, and what is it? When he ends up meeting Leslie, then he gets, in Leslie's ex is a TV producer, which is played by Peter Cook. So there's your connection with Peter Cook and Barry McKenzie. When they go onto the talk show, and when they go on live on air, and Barry ends up dropping his Dax in front of everyone because the TV show Midnight Oil, that's what it was called. And yeah, he drops his Dax to prove a point or make his point. So taking it out of a misunderstanding, so to speak. So
it's quite funny. That whole scene's, and it's really ludicrous at the end how there's a fire.
Yeah.
And they're putting it out. They've got like this chain of people bringing Fosters along the chain to the guys standing at the top pissing on the fire.
Yeah, the fact that they did that and he gave, well, how about you pour it out with a beer? And it's like, no, beer's alcoholic, so therefore it'll ignite it even further. So you got to water it down.
Yeah, it's another one of these movies that kind of gives foreign people the wrong impression of Australia because Foster's is in the movie. And as you and I both know, nobody drinks Foster's in Australia.
There's a reason why we export it.
It's exactly right. Because we don't like it. So I'm not sure why it's in this movie. The other interesting thing about this film is that the Qantas figure quite a lot in this movie. You know, the flight going out, and those Qantas bags.
Oh, we got to track down one of those. I do remember my nana having a bag like that. So yeah, those were all the rage.
And they've got them on them all the time. They've always got them over their shoulder.
Oh, it's fantastic.
It is. I don't
Bring
know.
them back.
That was in the old days, and I was looking at it, and I'm like, look at the size of those seats, and they're probably flying economy. I'm like, the seats are massive. There's so much leg room and pitch between the seats. It's amazing.
Yeah, and there was smoking on the flight too.
They're smoking on the flight.
I don't condone. I don't support smoking, but it's just you can tell the era when as soon as you see smoking on a flight, you go, "Yep, that was definitely."
It was the 70s.
Yeah.
Well, as soon as you see smoking anywhere indoors, you know it's the 70s.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I used to, even the 80s, right? Because I don't think smoking was outlawed in pubs for a long time, and I used to play pubs all the time with bands in the 80s, and when I would get home from gigs, even in the 90s, I think, I would basically go from my car to the laundry, take off all my clothes that I was wearing at the gig, put them in the washing machine and start the washing machine before I even thought of coming to bed. And then I was in the shower because I just smelt like cigarettes.
Oh, yuck.
It was terrible. And then I would get to rehearsal during the week and I would open my drum cases and all you could smell was like stale cigarette.
Oh,
and the cymbals and the drums, I was always cleaning because there was always like a film on them.
Yuck.
It was just terrible.
I will say though that like I still remember working when Chili's existed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a busboy at the time. Like, so first job ever, 14 to 9 months. And I still remember the Chili's restaurant being halved down the middle. When you walk in, on the right would be non-smoking, on the left would be smoking, and the smoking side will be a bit more smaller. And I just remember, just as you're talking about that, just going home, and I remember my shirt. I just remember smelling of stale cigarette smoke.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's the most terrible smell, and it like sticks to everything. So it was awful. Before we stop talking about this movie, I want the guy who I think's great in this movie and really underrated is Paul Bertram, who plays Curly.
Yeah.
I think he's like Baz's best mate, and the relationship they have together seems really actually quite real.
Yeah, there is a great chemistry.
Yeah, really good
Yeah.
chemistry. And John Clark's in this as well.
Yeah.
Has a really small part.
Yeah, he delivers it well, drops his New Zealand accent, and
It's like they pulled everyone out. It's one of these movies that you get rewarded by seeing these different people that you're like, oh, it's him. Oh, it's him, you know?
yeah, it's like a loose Fred Dagg performance.
A little bit. But yeah, Curly's a good character. I like the relationship they have. I actually like right at the end of the film when Bazza's going off with Edna in the studio and he's leaving him behind, the kind of the look on his face. He has this really great look and it's like, oh, my mate's going sort of thing. And it's kind of, yeah, it's really, really good. I really like it. One of the things I noticed, there's a scene early where they're sitting in the pub. And I think it's when Bazza is being talked to by the executive, the advertising guy.
Yes.
And there's 4 pictures on the wall behind them. I don't know if you noticed them.
I did. I've actually got that in my notes.
Rolf Harris. I think Robert Menzies. Is he the Prime Minister?
Yep.
Errol Flynn, I think.
Yeah, Errol Flynn. I knew it had to do something. Yeah, his face looked familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, and Barry Humphries.
Yes.
Yeah.
Barry Humphries played 4 characters.
He played lots.
He played himself and 3 others.
Yeah. And also, I didn't notice until this viewing, once again, because I haven't watched it for a long time, that I did not know until right near the end. I was like, hang on, Claude's not a guy.
That's the joke behind it all, yeah.
I know, right?
Well-accomplished actress as well.
I'm like, oh, okay. Because at first you're like, oh, he looks very British or she looks very British. And I'm like, oh, okay, something interesting there. And then later on, I'm like, hang on, that's not a guy. So, yeah, it's pretty good. I think with these movies in general, but this one especially, I just get the feeling with Barry Humphries that he just likes outraging people.
Yep.
And I think that's why this movie goes, and the next one, go as hard as they do, because I think he just likes watching people's reactions to things like this.
Yeah. It's trying to be controversial. Like it's there front and center.
Yeah.
And then when someone watches it and then they get upset about it, it's like, well, it was right there. I don't get why you still watched it when, it's his vision or his way of his thoughts and feelings on the culture.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
How much he disdains or does not like, I guess, the ochre and bogan.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he says himself in one of the interviews that he is effectively a bit of a snob. So he sort of, you can see it when you watch this movie. So.
He's aware of it and it's like, yep.
Yeah. Like, I'm going to have a dig at these people.
Exactly, yeah. Just an easy target.
Absolutely. All right. So let's have a quick look at Barry McKenzie Holds His Own. And in this movie, I guess the synopsis is when Barry's beloved Aunt Edna is mistakenly kidnapped by a group of vampires who believe she's the queen, Barry must navigate the peculiarities of European culture and rally his mates to rescue her. Just that, mistakenly kidnapped by a group of vampires who believe she's the queen. It tells you everything. This movie is batshit crazy, but I think it's actually better than the first one.
Yeah, because it's got a bigger budget,
It's got a bigger budget. I think it's like the budget was $450,000, so it wasn't a great deal more, but it was a bit more. And it stars Barry Crocker, Barry Humphries, Donald Pleasance, Dick Bentley, Ed Devereaux, Desmond Tester, Chantal Cantori, Clive James, and a great cameo by Gough Whitlam.
Yes. Also, don't forget Roy Kinnear as well.
Oh, okay.
Who plays, as AKA Veruca Salt's dad from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Yes, correct.
Because he plays the bishop or...
is he the bishop? The bishop's pretty funny in this.
He's in the church with Barrington's twin brother, as we discover.
So this is where, as I was saying to you earlier, these two movies have a lot in common with Alvin Purple and Alvin Rhodes Again. The second one is better than the first. The second one has the main character or the actor playing two different parts. There's more of a story. It's a little bit crazier, but this story is nuts. Like, I was just thinking, like Donald Pleasance, right? This is 3 years after Wake in Fright and 4 years before Halloween.
Yeah,
that he was in this movie. And I don't know what other movies he was doing in this period. I know he did the race for the race for the Yankee Zephyr, but I don't think that was till after Halloween. That was an 80s movie, I think. Or was it around this time? I'm not 100% sure. But anyway, how he goes from the performance in Wake in Fright to play Count Plasma in this movie is nuts. And I've got to say, he's pretty good. Like, for this movie, he's pretty funny. Like,
yeah,
the part he plays.
Yes, like he does it well. And do you think though, like the movie's introduced by the Minister for Culture, which is Humphreys, and then you know a big slap with Reg Grundy presents. So I feel like that Reg Grundy enjoyed the Adventures of Barry McKenzie and was like, hey, make another one, and then just throwing this movie together and just make it more crazy. Because they're on the plane at the beginning, I'm not sure, but does that mean that they've picked up directly from the first one, the previous film?
I don't know.
Or they're on, yeah.
In the first film, I thought they were flying home to Sydney.
Well, that's what I thought too. And then, but there was just a couple of things in this one where it just seems like they mentioned that, but I don't know if it was another trip.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just couldn't quite work it out.
And this one, you know, the French are front and center for lampooning.
Oh yeah, the frog air.
Yeah. Frog air.
Yeah.
And it was interesting. Apparently, after the first movie, I was reading or watched, Qantas did not want to borrow this movie.
Ah, okay.
That's why there's no Qantas involved with this movie.
Yeah.
They didn't want anything to do with it, which is a bit of a bummer, but you know, so that's how we ended up with Frog Air.
Yeah.
And we get the you know, all the usual stuff with the stewardess in the cockpit with the pilot having a bit of a tryst, and
yeah, the drunken pilot.
And Barry runs into the psychiatrist again, you know, on the flight. So it's all really weird. They're all on the same flight again, and Barry's mates are sitting down the back.
Well, that's what reminded me, or made me think that it was a direct continuation from the first one, because the doctor has decided to catch the same flight. That's what gave me the impression.
I think the whole storyline starts off because Edna Everage puts on like a tiara, which God knows where she got it. And then these two lackeys of Count Plasma that are on the plane. They're on the plane, right?
Yeah, they're on the plane.
And they
going,
think
that shit looks like
it's the Queen.
Yeah.
And they decide they're going to kidnap her.
Yeah.
And it's so funny. Count Plasma wants to kidnap her for her blood because of the, you know, he's kind of got like this lair where he has all different types of blood in bottles, almost like
that,
wine.
and also to help with the tourism of Transylvania.
Oh, that's right, tourism. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, if we got the Queen here, I can, tourism.
Yeah. But apparently the rescue could only be done on Sundays because it's the only day they have tourists in there.
Yeah, that's
Remember
right.
that? So, and I love seeing Ed Devereaux in these movies. It's so good. I mean, it must just take me back to probably watching Skippy as a kid. But have you seen him in Money Movers?
No, but I've
completely opposite.
I'm like you with the Blu-rays from Umbrella, where I've bought it and it's just sitting there on the shelf. I'll get around to watching it.
Yeah, I've probably lucky if I watched half of the ones I've got. He's excellent in Money Movers, Ed Devereaux. He's really good. This one as well has some really cool songs as well.
Yeah.
It has the song about the ratbag song, which I think is quite funny, when he's explaining what a ratbag is to everybody in the church when he's swapped with his brother.
Who gets temporarily kidnapped.
Yeah. So it's quite weird. Like he's got this whole scene or this whole thing where he's got a brother. I can't remember his brother's name. Is it in the
Kev.
Is it?
Yeah, it's Kev. Yeah.
Yeah, Kev McKenzie.
And the only difference is the hat is a different color. It's like a grey-esque type, like his suit and everything's just a pale lighter.
Yeah,
greyish.
Yeah. So we have Kev McKenzie, and he gets taken out because the bad guys think that that's Barry McKenzie or something like that. And
yeah, because
he ends up putting on the thing, and what's the name of the
exhibition?
Talk the exhibition. Is it something about
Christ and the orgasm?
Just to be a bit more outrageous and piss people off, I guess.
Because after they touch down in France, and then they go through the security, and Barry has got Foster strapped to him, and they gets all shot up by. Oh,
totally forgot about that bit.
Yeah, strapped to his torso, and but they also try to poison Barry as well, and that's where he ends up feeling a bit sick. This is the goons. They try to poison him, and then when they go up to the Eiffel Tower for a tourism part, and then he's going, I've got a bit of a feeling in me, Ned Kelly, I'm going to cry Ruth. It's like, well, do cry Ruth over the side. Ruth. And it tends to, and the fact that when they go down, they beat the vomit falling. Yeah.
That's hilarious. There's something about vomiting. Apparently, Barry Humphries mixed all the vomit for both the films. He has this thing.
Pea soup, and he gave a list of ingredients of what he did with it, and I'm going, that's really, really cool. That sounds quite appetizing.
And he used to mix it up in bags or something.
Yeah.
It's quite gross, really. Yeah, he seems to like a lot of things like that. So, it's an interesting movie. The songs are great. This one's much more of a complete movie where it actually has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It has like 3 acts. But it still has that little bit of a, kind of like, here's this bit, and they're very much just getting from one to another. And I know that's normally how all movies are made, but I think with the first movie, it's just very obvious that's kind of like they wrote skits and just linked them all together.
Well, one of the most iconic lines that's been mentioned in the movie, and you see that a lot in the promotions for anything that has to do with, say, Not Quite Hollywood, or just like anything that's got Auntie Edna Day Mebner. And that's when they're at the family reunion, the unofficial family reunion when they all catch up. And then they're talking about homosexuality and stuff. And that's when Auntie Edna says that, quote, I may be old-fashioned young woman, but lesbianism has always left a nasty taste in my mouth. So
they play that clip on everything.
Yeah. When I heard that, I went, oh, that's where, so...
Yeah, it's pretty funny. I both these movies, right, and going back to the disclaimer and all that sort of stuff, both these movies, sometimes when I laugh at them a lot, when something happens and I laugh a lot, I'm kind of like, I don't know if I should be laughing at this.
No, the amount of times I felt so wrong, like that there's one, are you allowed to censor, or can you please censor what I'm about to say?
I'll try.
Can you put a beep in it, please?
Yeah, I'll do something like that. Yeah.
I'll get my lawyers on you. But they're talking about, Barry says in something in regards to, and I just went, oh, goodness, I don't know how long I can put up with this. It
so
just made me feel so uncomfortable.
There's a section, if you end up watching the documentary that's on the Barry McKenzie Holds His Own DVD, there's a section where they've got clips from the movie. Because the documentary is meant to go on TV, there's bits of dialogue, and there's this one bit of dialogue where somebody starts talking and it's just da 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 beep 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 beep. Beep. It's hilarious. It's really good.
Yeah, throughout the whole thing, when he just goes through all these escapades, end up being kidnapped, and then Kev escapes and ends up fighting Barry because the twin rivalry. Because Kev is meant to be the highly strong, very religious, just a preacher, and Barrington is the more loose cannon.
Is the loose cannon, yeah.
Yeah. When he says Barrington, if you got a copy of Sean McAuliffe's the McAuliffe Tonight, when he did his talk show in 2003 on Channel 9, he's actually interviewing his hero, Barry Humphries, and Sean actually says, can I call you Barrington? So I think that's a nice little homage.
A nice little homage there, yeah.
Yeah. So I just want to point that out. There's a little thing for you. But the fact that when they get locked up and Barry gets told by a ghost how to escape, and because it's his long lost Uncle Arthur. So I built this hole to get it, and that's where he goes. They get out, and it leads into the sewerage pipes. He's literally up shit creek,
and that's where they end up getting on the boat to come back to England.
That's right. Yeah, and then when they're walking through the streets of London, there's shit all over the footpath.
I was going to say, when we were talking about the first movie, I don't know if it's so much with this movie, but the first movie, apparently they were really like guerrilla filmmaking. Like they had no permits to film, so they would just turn up and start filming. And in that the boarding house that was like, all messy where Curly lived and stuff like that, they were throwing stuff on the floor and dog shit and stuff like that just to make it look like that. And I don't know where, once again, this is Barry Humphries overdoing things, of course.
Yeah.
And the dog shit all over the road.
Quality stuff.
And it's in the same scene where he's slipping on the dog shit and he gets reintroduced to his psychiatrist again.
That's right.
And he vomits on him for the second time.
Yeah.
So, it's hilarious. I laughed, even though I felt bad.
But then later on, when they go to the immigration department, or when they're showing the thing where the immigration department's actually a quiz show.
Yeah.
So this is how they do it. And then who the host was?
No, he looked familiar. I didn't look him up though.
The host is Don Spencer. And
it is.
If you were my generation, you grew up with Don Spencer hosting Play School.
That's right.
Yeah.
I knew his face was familiar.
The father of Danielle Spencer.
All right.
And the ex-father-in-law of Russell Crowe.
Okay. Did he also have a song called Feathers, Furs and Fins or something? Was that him?
Sounds familiar. But Don Spencer.
Wow. That's great. That's really good. I love this stuff.
For him to be really harsh, I feel very ochre. And, what is the what country is the arsehole of the world?
It's really funny, that sequence, because they give him two questions that are like, obviously the answer is Australia, and then they give him the one question where obviously the answer is England, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, this is how you get into the country.
And the fact that he quizzes him on his sexuality as a throwaway. And then it's like, well, beg your pardon. And then he goes straight to the camera. The section, whatever it is.
Yeah. It's I'll say the word they use a lot, and I won't beep it out, but just beware. They use it a lot, and they use the word poofters all the time in these two movies.
Yeah.
And it's scary, like, I'll get a bit serious here. Like, the amount of times that word was just used in the vernacular in the 70s. Now, I remember, right? Because I'm that old. But I remember, and it wasn't. It's a terrible thing to use. It's a terrible word to use now. And it probably was, and it definitely was then, not probably. It definitely was then. But just the fact that it was said so freely in those days.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable.
Times have changed.
It was crazy.
For the better.
Yeah, and I think this film, and I think the other thing that gets this film, and I made a note before in the first movie, when Barry first meets up with Curly, and they go to the bar, and then something else happens. They come back, and Curly's in the room, in his room with the Sheila, and they start wrestling. They're drinking and wrestling.
Yeah, with his mate, and
it's almost like this homoerotic kind of fighting,
like Wake in Fright.
Yeah, that's what I think it kind of reminded me of, is Wake in Fright.
Yeah,
where it's kind of like, and then I think about it, and I'm like, this is a thing that blokes do. That, like, not in a homoerotic
get pissed
way.
and wrestle.
Get pissed and wrestle.
Yeah, they go, you having a go, eh? You having a go?
Yeah, and they get into it. It's really bizarre.
Joshing.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've seen it, right? It's nuts. And once again, it's Barry Humphrey's observations, right?
Yeah.
And it's quite interesting, all this sort of stuff. Chantal Conturi is still beautiful in this movie. And I love, like, is she Zizi? She's the vampire, the woman vampire, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's quite funny in this movie as well. She doesn't have any lines or anything.
But I love the fact when they do confront Count Plasma and the big brawl and stuff, where suddenly the chef, who is
the Chinese guy.
Yeah, the cliche, just kicks everyone's ass.
until they spray him with beer.
Yeah.
They spray him with Foster's, and that's it. It's like the demise of Count Plasma with the crucifix made of Foster's cans.
Yeah, from good old Kev, who puts that together.
And they're steel cans. They're big cans.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you buy those size anymore. They're full-on steel cans.
Everything will be in tallies now, so...
Yeah.
And then, but I just love that Collard, who was their French mate, who was helping him every scene that he went, basically being the tourist guide for him. And he always had the French bread with him. And when one of the Plasma's goons, went to attack Barry, and Colin steps in front of him and stops the thing, and the goon gets impaled by the French bread, the French stick.
We see them on the plane,
the baguette,
when they're flying to Transylvania, to get dropped, and it looks like they've just taken stock footage of parachutists getting dropped into, I don't know, somewhere in the back of Camden or something like that, right? And they're sitting there and they're whittling steaks, right? Yeah. And he's whittling his baguette.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
that's what he uses.
Oh, well, I just love the fact that the best line, which I was in stitches laughing because it just tickled my bone, right? Where Barry goes, "Oh, poor." This is after Colin's passed away. He goes, "Oh, poor old Colin. He'd give away his arsehole and shit through his ribs." Well, that was brilliant.
God. Yeah, there's some good lines in this one. I do like I said, I keep going back to the song, but I do like the song about ratbag. What's a ratbag? I think it's quite clever, even if it is politically incorrect in a lot of ways.
You mean this movie's politically correct? Shock horror.
Yeah. Especially the line about someone. He starts off it's his uncle or something. He talks about in being a ratbag, and his uncle thinks Hitler's a Jew.
Yeah, something like that.
That sort of stuff, and it's really funny. But they're all very vaudevillian kind of songs,
and it kind of breaks the tension too. So
it does a bit, yeah.
It's like just a reminder: hey, this is a major parody. Do not take this movie seriously.
Yeah.
So it's like that. It breaks that. It just breaks that tension.
Yeah. My recommendation would be, like, if you've got an open mind, you really should check these movies out. It's kind of like you'll see a lot of stuff that will blow your mind in regards to what's acceptable today versus what was acceptable then.
Yeah.
But I think as a bit of a time capsule of comedy, they're perfect.
Well, the best way to think about it is if you after something that is, if you want to look up the definition of vulgar and tasteless, you'll see Barry McKenzie under that. So if you're really after that, then this is the perfect example of really leave your brain at the door and then pour Foster's all over it. So just be prepared. If you want something that's offensive, then yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
So
before we close this out, I have two questions. One, is Barry McKenzie a virgin?
Good point. He gets close to it, but all I can keep thinking is that he keeps failing the practical.
He seems to, like, for want of a better term, pull out. And
well, I guess it's because he doesn't have any of the beef and prawn curry down his pants.
Oh my God, I forgot about that from the first movie.
I'd say that after maybe this, he does get laid or whatever, but I'd say that he gets close probably to second base or anything, but never gets any further.
Yeah, I don't know if he's a virgin, because he tends to, early in the first movie, a few of his mates are ragging on him about being a virgin or something like that, or making some sort of saying that he is, and he's pushing back, and they're asking him about women on the flight and all this, and he's like, oh no, and everything was good and she was fantastic and all this sort of stuff.
And then he did lie about something.
Typical bloke, right?
Yeah.
Typical young bloke.
Always talking himself up.
We've probably all done it when we were young. I get the feeling he's a virgin. I don't know. But yeah.
I'll go with that.
Yeah.
But I'd say after all these events, especially after when his aunt gets knighted, becomes a dame, thanks to Goff and Lady Flo.
How good is the
not
scene?
Lady Flo. What am I saying?
What's his wife's name?
Lady Flo's bloody Sir Joe. So
yeah.
my apologies. That's offensive.
Joe Bjelke-Peterson. God, remember that guy. Jeez. Who want to remember him?
Tell you what, don't you worry about that.
Margaret.
Margaret. Yeah, Margaret. My apologies.
I remembered it without the internet. How's that?
Yeah. So Margaret and Goff meeting him at the airport, and then that's when Auntie Edna became Dame Edna.
Yes.
And that's where, from there on, Auntie Edna was referred to as Dame. And
that's kind of like the beginning, right? If you're looking for a point of where Dame Edna became Dame Edna, that's it.
Yeah.
That movie.
So went from suburban housewife to Dame because of these movies. So it's like that evolution with these movies.
But what a coup to get the Prime Minister of Australia in your movie as a cameo.
Oh, yeah. It's just fantastic. Like, obviously the money was a bit right. So, or he because he loves his, Goff loved his drinking. And he loved being he always appealed to the Aussie larrikin, kind of like Bob Hawke type thing. Yeah.
I think Gough Whitlam and Bob Hawke would have loved the Barry McKenzie movies.
Well, the fact that Bob Hawke did make an appearance in a country practice, and wasn't he did he make an appearance in Kingswood Country as well?
He might have.
Well, I know that Graham Kennedy did. So.
Yeah.
But like Bob Hawke, like they love their culture, their arts and culture.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Well, they did a lot for the arts, right?
Exactly, yeah.
That's why I like Labor governments. Let's not talk politics, though. I think the other thing that got me, that scene where they come back, there's a brass band playing. The uniform. So, give you some background. When I was really young at school, like in year 7, I started playing musical instruments, and I was in a school brass band at St. Pat's at Sutherland. If anyone went there, hey, how you doing? Anyway.
Delete the podcast.
Anyway, after I finished school, or near the end of finishing school, before I left school, I joined the Sutherland Shire Silver Band, which was like the Shire brass band in Sutherland. And their uniform was exactly the same as the uniform in the movie of the brass band.
So do you think they're associated with...
I'm trying to find out, and I can't find out. So I don't know if anybody that has any link to the Sutherland Shire Silver Band knows, I thought I would have known, but when I was in that band, I had no interest in these sort of movies or anything like that, really. So if anyone knows, I would love to know whether it was like a cameo by them. Then when I was watching the documentary on the same disc at a premiere, there was a brass band at the premiere. It was the same band.
Oh, wow.
Now, it could have been a different Shire band in New South Wales or in Sydney because there was plenty of them. But the uniform looked absolutely identical, right down to like the thing on the sleeves, and it was amazing. So I don't know. I'm going to ask him if he knows anything about, because he was in the Southern Shire Silver Band as well. But
yeah, if anyone was in the movie, part of the band in the movie, please write in.
Let me know.
Yes.
Email pete@dingomoviepod.com. I think that's it. The other question I had for you was, could you make these films today?
No.
No. If you were going to, what changes would you have to make? And would the resulting film have the same impact?
What changes would be made?
It'll
be a very short film.
It would be a very short film.
Yeah, in fact, it'll probably be the film would be just the credits, and then everything else the main parts that would have been cut from the silver screen would be known as deleted scenes on the Blu-ray edition. So
yeah, you couldn't make this movie.
No, you get close to it. Like, if anything, that would be, dare I say, partially resemble, would be anything that comedian Paul Fennick would make.
Yeah, maybe.
That's the only thing that I'm thinking of. Or
it'll be Crocodile Dundee.
Yeah, so
which is basically what it is in a way.
Yeah, so it will be something similar to that. Say, if you watch your Howzos or Fat Pizza, like that type of humor, that would be the closest of this generation of that Barry McKenzie type thing.
Yeah, you could get to. Yeah.
Yeah, but then again, these days, if you make anything like that, you'll just slap it on YouTube or TikTok or whatever, get your clicks, and
it's interesting. I don't know how you couldn't. The words they use in this film, like, there's so many derogatory terms for sexuality, race, all sorts of stuff in this film. There's no way you could. I mean,
culture as well.
Culture, right?
So racism. Oh, you mentioned that. Sorry.
But if you want an unholy trinity, you've got these two films and the TV series Kingswood Country.
Oh, yes.
Which you could never make today either.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have anything else about these two movies? I mean, this has been one of these episodes that we've been all over the shop. So my apologies to anyone that's been trying to keep up. I think go watch the movies if you haven't seen them, and you'll figure out where we're going.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we've had to skirt around little bits and pieces, but yeah, it's my summary is they're both fun. The second one for me is better than the first, but there's some charm about Barry McKenzie himself, right? I think it's because he's oblivious to what he's saying half the time. It's not because he's saying it because he wants to be racist or he wants to be homophobic. It's just the language of the time, and he's not even aware, right?
Yeah, quite docile about it.
Yeah.
For me, it is, if you want to know the history, I see this as the development of Edna to how she became like this big star. So, the evolution of Auntie Edna.
Yeah, I think it's a good place to start if you want to look at that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking how different this is going to be from the episode I'm recording next week. I'm doing Talk to Me next week.
Oh, goodness.
Couldn't be more different.
Wow.
So, yeah, exactly. Anyway, it's all good. I don't have anything else. Do you have much else to add? Anything else to add?
In regards to these movies?
Yeah.
No, I enjoyed these. I like the first one. I just wish it had the budget or the second one had more structure, dare I say, and more money. But they incorporated that into the first one. The first one was very rough, but I enjoyed the first one a lot more because to me the second one seemed like that, like the Ockerisms, phrases were just, turned up to 11. Like I felt like they had to seg some stuff in, but Barry McKenzie, the first one, was just a bit more laid back and more acceptable. That's my thoughts anyway.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Okay, so let me know what's happening with the Champagne Comedy Podcast. Where are you up to with that?
We're at the time of this recording, we're halfway through Frontline Season 2, but we're still going strong with it, trying to tag down people who have starred in the show or have a connection. So we've got some things, I've got some ideas up my sleeve, but once we get through Frontline, we're also going to do Funky Squad and all that other stuff. And it's still going strong. Not bad for a COVID podcast. So
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, it started in 2020. Right. And 4 years later, we're still going strong.
Yeah, mine's a bit of a COVID podcast too, actually.
Yeah.
So, same sort of thing. So excuse my ignorance, because I'm probably going to tell you that I haven't listened. Are you doing things like Barjas and stuff like that?
We've done Barjas in the olden days when we did the Late Show.
Okay.
So we've already covered all 2 seasons of the Late Show.
Yep.
And if you follow on social media, I'm such as TLS Champagne on Twitex, whatever you want to call it, but on TikTok as well. Like I'm trying to do little videos and throwbacks of our episodes from like 4 years ago, and just do little visual highlights. We've covered those as they went through the episodes, so we watched them broken up and with the audience laughter, which gave it a whole new perspective since the original broadcast. So we're doing pretty good, and it's a fan TV recap thing, and then we talk about all the other news that is associated with the DGen Working Dog and other bits and pieces. But we also go on tangents. So we'll talk about one thing. Next thing you know, it's we're talking about program guides of the time, and Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise gets a lot of the mention.
Oh, wow.
So, and it just goes on from there. So if you want to throw back to something that happened in the 90s, Champagne Comedy Podcast, and you just nerd out. And
cool.
The episodes are quite long. So awesome. Be prepared to fall asleep on the couch while Mrs. Gort's ranting.
And what other projects you got going? Or socials and stuff like that?
Well, I still run my pop culture site, My Geek Culture, so it's taken not a hiatus, but it's coming back shortly with some extra content like interviews and stuff. It's just trying to find the time to do it on top of a full-time job. So, and I'm quite active on Twit, so Matt Fulton .com.au, and I'm just around the traps. So. And I tweet too much.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
I see it quite a bit. Yeah. Well, so do I, but
Well, I do that because I'm bored. I'm in bed and I just go, I'll see this and I'll just take the mickey out of it. So
Yeah. All good.
But that's pretty much what I'm up to. So other than that, mattfulton.com.au is my extensive CV of pure crap.
Excellent. All right. Well, thanks for coming on. It's great. It's always good to have you on. And
thank you, Peter. It is, and again, I'll say it every single time, and I'll say it again. It's an absolute honor that you allow me to nerd out on these Aussie films. So
no worries. It's always good doing films with you. I think we've done some good ones. We did Houseboat Horror.
Yep, I always throw back to that every time, especially like Infinity.
I was only looking at the Blu-ray again the other day when I was actually putting my Dead End Drive-In set that I got from Umbrella into the thing, and I was like, I really need to watch Houseboat Horror again. Anyway,
that's a golden classic, and
it is a great one.
Yeah, right. I'm looking forward to all the stuff that Umbrella released anyway too.
Yeah, so much coming up.
Yeah,
cool. All right, mate. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
And when we come back, we'll talk about what's coming up next.
now, preview time. When it comes to entertainment, you can't beat a good film. So let's take a look at what's coming your way.
You busy tonight?
You want to turn, eh?
My mum leaves at 9.
So you're 10.
Where'd you get it from anyway?
Apparently it was the hand of someone that could connect with the dead.
I heard it was the hand of a Satanist. The other hand's just out there.
White people shit, man, I tell you.
All right, let's do this! You know the drill. Say, talk to me.
Talk to me.
Next on A Dingo Ate My Movie, I'll be joined by Brandon Hardy to talk about the 2022 film Talk to Me. Thanks for taking the time to listen to this episode of A Dingo Ate My Movie. I want to thank all my guests who give their time to make this podcast possible, and a special thanks to you for listening. Don't forget, you can follow A Dingo Ate My Movie on social media. On Twitter, it's just Dingo Movie. Facebook and Instagram is Dingo Movie Pod. And of course, you can check out our website, dingomoviepod.com. So until next time, stay safe, and I'll see you soon.
A rat bag is a Sheila or a bloke who's kind of funny, but like who never sees the joke. Now take me mother's brother, Uncle Graham. He's a raving bloody rat bag through and through. He collects old kettles, makes his own wine out of nettles, and he reckons that old Hitler was a Jew. He's always seen flying saucers landing, bringing rat bags to the earth from outer space. And he's written in his will that when he dies, we have to spill his ash on Melbourne Cup Day underneath the race. Oh, yes, he is. Ah, rat bag, yes, a raving rat bag. Yes, he's a screwball, he's a nutcase, there's no doubt. And if you think you're rat bag free, then just shake your family tree. See the great big raving rat bag's falling out. If you eat your sweet and sour pork with chopsticks, when you're at home with no one round to see. If you're a Filipino healer, or think Shakespeare was a Sheila, or you try to cure your warts with herbal tea. If you listen to the latest teenage guru, or you pin your faith on Scientology. If you grow organic food, go horse riding in the nude, there's the very faintest chance that you can be a rat bag, a raving rat bag. You're a screwball, you're a nutcase, there's no doubt. And if you think you're rat bag free, then just shake your family tree. See the great big raving rat bag falling out. You're a rat bag if you turn on your alarm clock, though you know it never ever makes you wake. You're a rat bag if you rise with a burst of exercise, or count to 40 every time you chew your steak. You're a rat bag if you live upon a commune, or you sail the seas alone upon a yacht. Rat bag! Rat bag! Flagpole squatters, housewife potters, anonymous phoners, sperm bank donors, Pakistani waiters, book deliberators, mystics from Thailand, everyone in Ireland. In fact, walking round this hall, I ascertain out of us all that there's just one bastard in here who is not. Who's not? Ah, rat bag, a raving rat bag. A screwball, a nutcase, there's no doubt. And if you think you're rat bag free, then just shake your family tree. See the great big raving rat bag's falling out. A rat bag! A raving rat bag! You're a screwball, you're a nutcase, there's no doubt. And if you think you're rat bag free, then just shake your family tree. See the great big raving rat bag. Great big raving rat bags, great big raving rat bags falling out.
Next on A Dingo Ate My Movie, we'll be taking a full 180-degree turn and we'll be talking about 1920. Next on A Dingo Ate My Movie, we'll be talking about the 2020. Next